Welcome to the Same Day Podcast, where we discuss driving incremental business growth and other topics related to real estate, property management, and entrepreneurship. Now, to the show at hand.
Hi there, Yoni Schmidt here, hosting today's episode of the Same Day Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Keyrenter Property Management. At Keyrenter Property Management, we help our investors and clients whether you have single-family residential homes, condos, townhouses, apartments, buy, renovate, and manage those assets. Go to KeyrenterPMC.com or email us at info@KeyrenterPMC.com. Some of our past guests include Monica Gilroy, an attorney that specializes in fair housing laws, Lindsay Davis, the CEO of Spartan Invest, Mark Miller, CEO of Hilton Tax and Wealth Advisors, and many more. Today, I'm excited to welcome Mickie Kennedy, the founder of eReleases, the premier press release distribution platform designed for small businesses, entrepreneurs, and growing companies that want national exposure without breaking the bank. Since launching in 1998, Mickie has helped thousands of businesses get featured in major outlets like the New York Times, Forbes, Good Morning America, and more. Armed with an MFA in creative writing and a sharp understanding of how media works, Mickie's mission is to help businesses tell their story and reach a broader audience through the power of strategic PR. He's an expert on how press releases can fuel growth, increase investor confidence, drive SEO, and humanize your brand, all in today's age of AI. Welcome to the show, Mickie, and thank you for being here.
No, thanks for having me.
Well, I know it's early, so I appreciate you hopping on so early here. But let's just get started with the basics a little bit. What exactly is a press release today, and how has its role evolved in the age of digital media and artificial intelligence?
So, press release is just an announcement to the media. It's usually written in the third person. You might have a quote where you write something in the first person, and it's basically sort of announcing something that you feel is newsworthy that you hope the media will turn into an article. And, that is the goal of a press release, is to have it turned into earned media where a journalist transforms it. There are other ways to pitch the media. Of course, there's email pitches where you don't have to write out an entire press release. It's just, here's the meat of the what we have that's going on that we believe is newsworthy. And that works extremely well with local media, so that you don't necessarily have to write an entire press release. And I do think that AI is a great place to help you write, because AI is pretty good at writing and organizing and following a template. The areas that I caution people is, don't let AI choose what to write about when it comes to PR. 97% of press releases that get issued to the media do not generate earned media. And so AI has been trained on the bulk of press releases that are out there. And it'll make the same mistake most people do, is they'll see the releases that your competitors do that don't generate earned media, and it'll write those and it'll read well, but it's very unlikely that that will generate earned media for you. So I say always approach AI as like knowing exactly what you want it to write about going into it, what the subject is, and how that subject is newsworthy, and then use it for the actual writing and organization and supporting that.
Yeah. So, kind of taking what you just said and applying it to our industry and selfishly asking about, the world of real estate and property management, many of which are, maybe local or regional. How could a press release help them, on a national scale, garner attention and grow their authority within their markets? And why would they even want to do it?
So I think that getting local media is really great for property management companies and people in the real estate industry, because it makes you elevates you in the community, and more people know about you, and they see you in print, and they feel like this person's got it going on. The type of things that work in local media can also play out in national media, data, numbers, things like that. Trends in one market could potentially be something that happens nationwide. So national media does pay attention to that. And, even national publications and trade journals and things like that will report on things that are happening in local markets. And so some of the areas that I think that where people can tap into being really newsworthy is getting some data around your market and your community. There are a lot of tools for assembling data. There's a lot of products that are out there. So, what are, sales looking like? What is, time on the market looking like? What is, for property management companies, how many, properties under management does the average property management company in your area have? That could also be a sign of consolidation, where all of a sudden 5 years ago that number was like the average was like 47 properties under management, and today it's like 280. So it tells you there's probably been consolidation, and the smaller property management companies have probably been either grown or more likely acquired or partnered with others. And so those are the types of things that play really well locally, and potentially, could be a signal that the national media would want to say, "Hey, look what's happening here. Is this a sign that's happening elsewhere?" And you can sort of reinforce that nationally by having quotes in your press release where you're putting the local numbers there, but then you make a statement where you feel like, we're beginning to see this all across, let's say this is a city in California, and we believe that this is going to move further east, as many things in the real estate market do, or have done in the past. And so that's a way where you've sort of prepared the quote for a national media and to sort of get it out to a national market. The types of things that, potentially can be newsworthy with real estate, it varies. Just having a listing in and of itself is not newsworthy. But you have a historical listing. Maybe there's a property that was owned by, a mayor 80 years ago and has a lot of historical ties to the community and roots. That is something that the local media would really find interesting. If it's someone of national significance, when Betty White's property sold a while back, that got national attention. Those are also things that are suitable for getting out to the media. But, there's also just the stuff that, I think that the local market as well as your trade publications would find interesting, like, new team hires, team expansions, consolidation, you've acquired or opened a new office. Those are the standard types of things that we see, and those can work really well. I always tell people to make sure you have a really engaging title or headline, and then also make sure your quote really sings, because that's what I call a soft story. And the media will use a soft story, but the things that generally increase its likelihood is an amazing quote. And so if a journalist says, "I have two articles here, equally not very newsworthy," they know that if they write a good article for each, but one has an amazing quote, it's going to make that article stand up even more. And when I say amazing quote, what do I mean? It could be like, being creative, having a writing flourish, you got a smith on duty, but more likely than not, it just means using really active verbs, saying something very succinctly or distinctive. If you have a contrarian viewpoint, saying that very, powerfully will really stand out and really make you look like, wow, this is someone who's saying something with conviction, counter to what a lot of people in the industry are saying. But, even if it's not contrarian, having those active verbs, saying it very succinctly, if a journalist was to paraphrase that into just an average sentence, there'd be a loss for what you originally wrote or spoke in a quote. And that's what we're going for with an amazing quote.
Yeah. So you answer my question about what story is newsworthy in your experience. What are some creative ways that property managers or brokers or real estate individuals and professionals can use for press releases aside for or beyond just announcing new hires, new listings, potentially historical listings, merger acquisitions, and openings of new offices? From your, I guess, experience.
Case studies. So if you're a property management company and you took maybe not a distressed property, but one tending towards that, and over a 4-year period, you turned it around, All the properties are great. They're all, the appliances, everything has just been changed out and is looking really on point. That makes an amazing case study because you can then talk about things that also have improved economically. Because with a turnaround like that, the rents are probably considerably higher. Occupancy is probably really amazing. So these are all things that build a really great use case study. And, having the maybe the property owner give a quote by saying, "Hey, we've always avoided what we felt was the high price of property management. But today we're making 20% or 15% more money than we did before we handed this off. And the
Hmm.
properties have never looked better. The tenants have never complained less and been happier with the actual product that we have. And so it can really make a use case study, A, for property management, but also here's a turnaround and having the right partner in that to sort of manage that a little bit, that can go a long ways. And so I think things like that are the type of things that, if you go back to the days of reality TV, those are the kind of things that people like to window watch. They like to say, oh, turnarounds, here's
Hmm.
changes and here's before and here's after. Those play very well with almost anyone. Everyone loves before and afters. So before and after images, before and after financials, all of those things can really build something that really stands out. And, your role in that really speaks to the value that you bring to being a property manager and things along those lines.
Yeah, interesting. That's a good point. Um, let's talk a little bit about artificial intelligence, which is, a big topic in today's world. Where does AI fit into press releases in 2025? Is it helping? Is it hurting? How can, professionals take advantage of these tools without losing their human voice? And specifically, one thing that I heard is, about press releases building authority for individuals and businesses. And when people are searching for companies and they're trying to understand, okay, who in our industry, for example, they go into ChatGPT and they say, you know who is the best property manager in whatever market, right? And then there's a list and typically a map, and then they go to Google and they do like their own verification. um how does PR fit into this?
So it's no secret that AI is using press releases as content. One of the things that AI looks for is recency and, of course, credibility. And it is giving press releases a lot of credibility as if they are actual, New York Times, places like that. And that's a place where you control the content because you write the press releases. All of our releases, the e-releases, go out through PR Newswire and ChatGPT specifically, and a lot of the other AIs do lean heavily on the business wires and PR news wires, which are the largest two news wires in the US. And so that's a way where you get to craft the content. And, by issuing it, it's a place that AI is currently ranking stuff very highly as a result of that. I think it's the more of the recency. Um, uh, and the authority may not be as strong as, say, a Wall Street Journal or New York Times, but the recency is hard to beat because if you're doing a release on a regular basis, say quarterly, you're probably going to be up there a lot higher than competitors in the market who may have not been written about in the media for a year or something like that. And so that's a way in which people are showing up there. I think another thing is, with everyone leaning on AI to develop and write content, I don't have a problem with it when it comes to press releases. The press release isn't designed to be the end product. It's to actually have a journalist transform it.
Hmm.
But the thing that, as I'd mentioned before, is I find that AI is not great at distinguishing what's a really newsworthy angle or hook. And so that's the area that I feel the human element is really needed. I also feel like the quote is another area that AI will give you a safe quote. No one's going to be fired from a quote with AI. They should say, no one's ever fired for choosing AT&T as the phone company at the company. But they tend to pay 2 to 3 times what other carriers do because it's just a safe choice. When it comes to press releases, you don't want a safe choice. So I would really go in there and work on, what come to AI with the topic, come to AI playing with the quote. You can still lean on AI, but tell it the rules. Say, I want a really powerful, strong quote, active verb, stand out. Give me 10 quotes on this topic, and maybe pick one, and maybe massage it yourself, or ask AI to sort of transform it. I always approach AI in a very time-consuming way, and by time-consuming, it's like I spend up to 12 minutes to write a press release with AI. Most people just
Hmm.
say, write a 600-word press release on this is my company and this is the topic, and you'll get a good press release. But good press releases often aren't enough. And so what I do is I will go to it and say, this is the topic I want you to write about. This is my company. Do not write anything about, don't write a press release yet. Instead, give me a outline of how you would go about this press release, and then it'll
Hmm.
spit it out. Sometimes it will still spit out a press release, and I just ignore it, and I go, I need an outline, and then I get the outline, and then I go, okay, give me 10 headline versions for this press release. And then I look at that and I'm like, do any of these really stand out as an amazing headline? And if I'm not happy, I'll say, hey, number 4 comes closest. This one, can you give me 10 versions of that headline? And again,
Hmm.
pay attention to, I want it to be powerful. I want it to answer the who, what, when, where, how, and why of this announcement, as much as makes sense. Sometimes the where and the whys aren't necessary in the headline, but just sort of the tenets of journalism are sort of addressed there. And then I go, give me 3 opening paragraphs for this headline that we've chosen in this topic. And then, I look at that, is the most important elements there in one of those in those paragraphs? If so, pick that and say, okay, now let's go to the second paragraph. And then say, in either that one or the third paragraph, you could say, now write a third paragraph and include a quote by me. Make sure it's strong, active verbs, and really stands out and has a lot of conviction. I want that quote to be amazing. And then, get 1 or 2 versions of that paragraph, and then say, okay, give me just 10 versions of the quote by itself. And then look at that. Are any of those better than the quote that was in the paragraph? And then go write the next paragraph, and then, get to the final paragraph. Usually at the end of press releases, there's what they call the boilerplate, where it's about the
Hmm.
company. And so, those usually get recycled from press release to press release. If you have one, you can just insert it. If not, you can ask AI to write a boilerplate, and then you're done. And like I said, the longest I've ever taken is 12 minutes for one of these things. But the end result is a much stronger press release than if you just say, here's my topic, write a 600-word press release on this. It does it. It does it extremely fast. I like AI to slow down. I like AI to give me options. I like to choose and pick and choose and put a little human choice in there and push back on AI if I feel like I don't really like something. Like, hey, this headline comes the closest, but I think it's weak. Give me 5 versions of that headline that are stronger. And so this approach, like I said, might cost you an extra 10 minutes or so, but you'll end up with a better product and a better press release. And when it comes to the statistics of press releases, it's worth it to put a little more effort in there and to make sure
Hmm.
that you're really leading as newsworthy as possible, and as strong as possible.
Yeah, wonderful. Tell us, I guess, a little bit about your company and what's the benefit of someone who, wants to, I guess, work with a company like yours to issue press releases. Does it happen on a regular basis? Is it, ad hoc? Is it, something that happens once a year? I mean, I'm really not familiar with it, so
Sure.
educate me and our listeners about your company and what the cadence and process looks like.
Sure. So with e-releases, we're a la carte. All of our releases go out nationally through PR Newswire. I'd mentioned them before. They're the largest and oldest press releases of newswires. In the US, it's basically a duopoly with Business Wire and PR Newswire making up the bulk of newswires. If you look at publicly traded companies or large corporations that are private, they will use one or the other. And that's pretty much it. There is an exception for some publicly traded companies who really don't want journalists looking too carefully at them, and they're just wanting to meet SEC disclosure. They generally use Globe Newswire. But if you're looking to get articles written about you in earned media, you have to be in either PR Newswire or Business Wire. PR Newswire and Business Wire are expensive. Being basically a duopoly, it's very costly. PR Newswire charges over $1,700 for a 600-word press release. But through us, all of our releases go out nationally, and it is going to probably save you about 75% going through eReleases than going directly there. That being said, we do 10,000 releases a year, and our client base are small businesses, entrepreneurs, startups, authors, and these are people that PR Newswire sales team has zero interest in talking with. My average customer spends less than $2,000 a year. Their salespeople are targeting people willing to spend $30,000 to $40,000 plus a year. And so that's why we're such a good partnership, and we've been able to leverage a good discount because these aren't customers they would normally get who would be willing to pay $1,700. And then secondly, also, these are also people who are, taking, an opportunity and they're getting it out there to the media that normally wouldn't be over a wire. And so they're not losing these customers. This is just what I call found money that's brought to them. And so that's what makes our partnership really, and we have large companies come to us and we're able to redirect them directly to a contact at PR Newswire to hopefully help get them set up at the company. And, so that's pretty much it. I do tell people, if you're going to consider PR, one press release is not a magic bullet. And so I see a lot of people who say, I've done a press release in the past and it didn't work, so I just crossed it off our marketing list. And that's, like saying, I did a Google ad campaign, I got one click, it didn't turn into a customer, and so I gave up on Google Ads. I didn't change the ad copy, I didn't let it have more impressions, I didn't change the landing page, I didn't do any of those things. And when it comes to PR, it's sort of the same thing. You want to make sure that you are doing strategic, as newsworthy press releases as possible, and that you're changing the angles and the hooks, and and that you're doing a series of them. I always tell people, judge PR by a PR campaign, do 6 to 8 releases, and the cadence is up to you. If you feel like you have milestones and things that are happening that once a month is good, that's great. My average customer probably does them every other month or quarterly, like once, 4 or 5 a year is more average. So it might take you over a year to get to 6 to 8 releases to give it a proper test. That being said, I've mentioned doing strategic and newsworthy press releases. I actually have a free 1-hour video masterclass where I go through those types of releases, and it's available for free to anyone. It's a great place for somebody who's looking at PR, or maybe they've tried 1 or 2 releases and they're open to it. It's at eReleases.com/plan, PLAN, and again, completely free. And what I do is I look at the 3% of press releases that do get picked up, and I found lots of patterns there. And these are patterns that can be adapted for most any company. One is, doing a industry survey or taking data points that exist in your market and compiling those together and getting those out there. And I sort of walk through the easy way to do that, because people are always like, oh, I don't know enough people to do a survey. And the thing is, there are trade associations, independent and small ones, in every industry. Everybody knows about the big ones. They put on the big conferences and stuff like that. But there are a lot of other ones that are out there in the marketplace. And those are great places to partner with because nobody knows about them. And so they tend to be small. 700 members to 1,500 members seems to be the sweet spot for a lot of those smaller and independent trade associations. But I find that 2/3 of the time when I approach them and say, hey, I have this link, survey monkey link is usually what I give them. It's a survey that I'm conducting. If you send this to your members, I'll mention you in a press release going out nationally over PR Newswire in the coming weeks. And they know it's a couple $1,000s to send a press release over PR Newswire, and here they can get mentioned in it. They see that as an opportunity for them to get some media attention as well. And that's one of the things that I go into, that anyone can adapt and do. But you can also take numbers numbers from other things like trends in your community, sales. I mentioned the average property management companies, holdings as what the amount of doors that they have and things like that. All of those can be metrics that you can put together that the media generally loves. Media generally loves numbers, but also they like a little bit of analysis with it. So once you have the numbers, you're going to either lean on AI or do the dance between yourself and AI to put some thoughtfulness in there. You don't always have to agree with numbers. Like if you did a survey of your industry and found that 47% believe their business might be at jeopardy because of AI, you could actually say, hey, I think that's a bit alarmist, but I do think that those who don't know how to use AI with their job are going to be at a huge disadvantage in the next few years. And, those are the types of thoughtful quotes that people generally like, where you put some analysis in it and didn't agree with what the survey was saying, where everybody's like, wow, we're panicking. We think our job's going to be replaced by AI in the next 5 years. And you're like, slow down a little bit. But, you put your spin on it. I always tell people, focus on one or two of the questions from a survey. Build out a page on your website where you put all the questions and answers, and a good journalist will go there hunting for other stories. Like, hey, maybe they're really aware of question 7 and they feel that could make a really great article. So those are really great things to have as well. But there's so many newsworthy ideas that are out there. If you just put a little bit of effort in it, and you're not doing the average release where you're like, hey, we just added this member to our group or our property management company, where those tend to not get much pickup outside of like maybe the local newspaper and business newspaper, and maybe at most a trade publication or something like that. So take your releases that you issue over wire, make them strategic as possible, and generally you'll have some successes. And that being said, if you follow my formula, 6 to 8 releases, 2 or 3 of those will probably result in no earned media. That is very common. There are people who spend $40,000-$60,000 with a PR firm who does like 10, 12 releases, and none of them generate earned media. I think that is ethically reprehensible, knowing what I know. Because if you follow, the strategic types of releases, you're going to have probably at least half of them generate earned media. And in the case of the survey, industry survey, I've never had that not generate at least 4 earned media articles. And on average, it's usually 12 to 14 articles that results from that one survey. And yet these PR firms just spend people's money, and they don't go the extra effort and put all this together and, have them placed in this position of thought leadership by authoring a survey. And yeah, it's a little bit of work, but gosh, they're charging outrageous amounts of money for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. We have a lot of data at our fingertips as property management companies, right? Rents and square footage and, bedrooms, bathroom counts, days on market, purchase price, return on investment. Putting together a survey, I guess, and some sort of data to back up a press release is an interesting approach. So you're saying it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. 6 to 8 press releases is what you're looking at before you're really going to start garnering some traction there. And of those 6 to 8, 2 or 3 may not even gain some. What you're saying is you're calling it gain media, right?
Right. You may not get the earned media. You'll probably still show up in AI searches what you said in the press release will show up there. You will get some syndication, so your release will be like on Yahoo Finance and stuff like that. But I always tell people who get really excited by that, that's not the goal. We're looking to get the actual articles written by journalists. And so even when you have non-successes, there are things to get excited about, because my clients love stuff like that. Oh, we're showing up in an AI search where we talked about this recent award that we got where we were named best this, and now when you do a search in AI, we rank who's the best for this. Well, they just won an award for best of this in Miami or wherever they're located, and so that is a win. But I like the earned media. I like when we get publications covering us, trade publications, local media, national media. Those are the wins, and those are available. You just have to be a little bit strategic, and it is not as complicated as you think it is. And so it is one of those things where for under probably $3,500, you can do 6 to 8 releases through eReleases, and lean on AI. Take that master class that I talked about, and you could probably do circles around a PR firm that would have probably charged you $30,000 or $40,000 with just minimal effort. And lean on AI, and just put a little bit of thought into it, and just be a little strategic.
Yeah. And so e-releases, do you have or do you develop the relationships locally with those, journalists who will organically then pick up the story and write something about it? Or
So
is that something that you
I did
guide the
that. I
business
did
owner
that 20
as?
years ago, and
Okay.
the truth is, today it's the newswire that everyone
Hmm.
is using. Um, I started with a media database of journalists that I developed a relationship with and grew it. And what I found was my emails just didn't result in pickup the way it used to. And it got worse and worse. And anybody who pitches by email knows the problem. Media databases are now commonplace. So for 10,000, 20,000 a year, people get access to a database. And, the responsible company will say, hey, we're a golf club manufacturer. There's 1,400 golf journalists in here. Let's send it to them. And then
Hmm.
more likely than not, they're like, we spent $10,000 on this. You issued a press release through the media database. Nothing happened. Uh, Either, do 30 or 40 versions of that press release and send to them, or hey, you do who likes to play golf? Bankers, financial analysts. And all of a sudden they're emailing banking journalists and financial analyst journalists who will never in their lifetime cover a
Yeah.
golf club. And they're getting these press releases. So off-targeted emails destroyed email relationships for the most part. I think the PR firms that are still doing very well are those that either have, talked to people and they pick up the
Hmm.
phone and call them, and often have to walk them through how to find their email in their inbox, because their inboxes are crazy. The great thing about the newswire is when a journalist logs in, they have a customized feed, so they can look at their industry feed. They can also, like I said, customize it so that it excludes certain keywords. So maybe they don't cover certain markets, or there's certain keywords that they just don't want to see press releases from, or they want to pin releases to the top that mention certain keywords. And so the newswire is the complete opposite of what their inbox is like. And it's made it so that the newswire is almost like, if you're not using PR Newswire or Business Wire with your press release, very few journalists are really going to get the opportunity to see it. There are other wires that people have probably heard of, like Reuters, Associated Press, UPI. There's several others. None of them issue press releases on behalf of clients.
Hmm.
Everything they issue is written by them. They
Right.
accept press releases. They go to PR Newswire, they go to Business Wire, and they pull releases down and they write articles. So the way they get paid is, the Baltimore Sun, it's 5:30, and the Supreme Court makes a decision, and he wants to go to dinner. He's like, oh, we'll just pull the story off the Associated Press. We know it'll be a quality article. They'll cover it, write it. And when we put it in the Baltimore Sun, it says AP at the top, and they just pay a
Right.
licensing fee to the Associated Press. And so a lot of people get confused because there are ways to pay a small fee and have a release put basically in a subcategory of a subcategory of a subcategory on the AP that no one will ever see.
Hmm.
It's like so there's a lot of misinformation out there. Basically, I tell people, you want to make sure if you're looking for earned media that it's going to one of the two big newswires. Doesn't have to go to both of them. And for the money, you can't get a national release out to your trade publications, your local media, cheaper than through e-releases.
Got it. Nice. So, for professionals that are listening to us today, what's one simple, I guess, powerful press release idea that, they could act on right now? Maybe professionals in the property management industry, that might help boost their visibility or their business. aside for the stuff maybe that we mentioned earlier?
Right.
Any thoughts, ideas?
Industry forecast. We're heading towards the end of the year. Predictions for the new year, things
Oh
like
yeah.
that do extremely well. People love thoughtful predictions. I think the ones that do the best are where 80% aren't surprises, but 20% are. So you might say four things that are kind of like, wow, that's thoughtful and that makes sense, but then one that just sort of pulls the rug out from under them.
Hmm.
So dig in deep, be creative, maybe play with AI or, AI is really good at brainstorming and say, what are some things that are, fringe, maybe conspiracies in our industry right now, things that people would be really surprised about. And then say, now, where would be some data that might support one or two of these fringe ideas? And then, that you want to, you never want to be the crazy uncle out there making predictions and forecasts. So you want to have a little bit of analysis when you're challenged. Why do you think possibly that? And there's like, I'm not saying that's a slam dunk, but here are some indicators that this could be like worst case scenario, or this could be in play. And if you can support it, people love it. And one of the things about the media is there's a trend a while back people called newsjacking. It was like relevant for like 3 seconds, where if something happened in your industry and it was sort of getting some momentum, you would join the conversation.
Hmm.
Well, everyone does that now. And so there's no way to stand out. There's 1,500 people competing for the same 40 articles that'll get written on it.
I thought that's what like X is for now, or
Right,
Twitter, right?
exactly. You just
Yeah.
you just join the noise. But if
Yeah.
you have a contrarian viewpoint on something, that's where you can dominate, because the media likes to be fair and balanced, despite what people say politically. They do like to show both sides of it, but many times they go to print with only one side because no one has raised their hand and said, "Hey, I want to be the person who says the contrarian viewpoint on this hot button issue." Then
Hmm.
those 40 articles that get written, you stand the opportunity to be put in every single one of them because you're the only one that they can put a quote in there and
Yeah.
have something ready made to discuss it. And so, that's a great way to stand out. The predictions, the forecasts, but also, are there contrarian viewpoints that you have on trending things? And if you get out there in front of it, you have a thoughtful contrarian viewpoint that you can back up and not and seem professional, and also don't alienate your customer base with any viewpoints. But if those opportunities arise, take advantage of them and get your message out there.
Yeah. And so with saying that, I'm going to ask you one final question as the expert here, right? There's a saying, there's no such thing as bad press. Is that true?
No, there's a lot of bad press.
Okay.
There is, I mean, you only have to look at social media where people get dragged and companies get wrecked, and bad things happen. I think
Yeah,
what
because
happens
if you're
is,
if you're the contrarian in the 40 articles and then your prediction is blown up and because it's all hot air, then don't you look a little foolish?
I don't think so. I think that 80% of your stuff was right on. It
Okay.
was only the one French thing that made, but that one little French thing is the thing that stood out and is going to probably make people say, you won't believe what this guy's out there saying right now.
Yeah.
And so I think that 80% of, thoughtful things that aren't surprises are going to ground you. And that one is going to make it seem okay. But again, you just want to make sure that it's not something that is outlandish or make you seem silly. And you want it to be something that you can sort of back up with some little, data points or
Mhm.
observations that could lend to that. There's
Yeah.
always people, in the biggest bull markets, there are people saying, here are the signs that everything's about to turn. And they get a lot of media attention because they're out there, everybody's saying everything's on fire, and here are the contrarians. And so they get a lot of
Mhm.
mileage out of it. And, I think that they do stand to the likelihood that they'll be dragged or things will go bad. Except, I think I find that a lot of them, if you look at their quotes, they'll immediately counter and say, I was wrong. And,
Mhm.
and here's why I thought I was right. And here's what actually happened. And they're putting thoughtful analysis in there. And people are like, okay, he had some valid concerns, but I think it's a way in which you can sort of media yourself. You can't always be the person who's crying wolf, though. So you have to be,
Yeah.
careful about those types of things. But I do think that, anything that you can say that's either very thoughtful, or in some cases you can bring up points and trends and possibilities that nobody in the media, your media has talked about. And I call those industry blind spots, where what you're saying is probably true, but the media just hasn't caught up yet to capture it. I've had that work really well for a lot of clients, where they would they say, I can't wait to go to the conference because I've noticed this trend in my business, and I'm wondering if other people have too.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get there and they get the confirmation. Yeah, we're seeing this. Our industry trade publications haven't covered it. No one's talking about it yet on social media. That is a point where you can issue a release, have some quotes about that type of thing, and dominate the media. I've had one client who did that, and they were able to write 6 subsequent releases on that subject. And at the end of it, they got over 30 articles written on that industry blind spot.
Yeah. I mean, you have to really know your business well and astutely recognize those industry blind spots. So that's interesting. I'll start looking for those in our industry. Mickie, thank you so much for being here, educating me, our listeners, about eReleases, press releases, the importance of these, the fact that this is a process, like SEO, nothing happens overnight. And I truly appreciate it. I was pretty interested in learning how all this plays in the world of AI, because I see the importance of press releases, especially in today's age, because it builds credibility and authority. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Same Day Podcast. Tune in to a new show each week and be sure to subscribe to get future episodes.